What if everything you thought you knew about Adolf Hitler is just the tip of the iceberg? From a secret Jewish romance and a mysterious niece's fate to a hidden love child, and even the chilling truth about his brain, these 7 forbidden stories will upend history books and leave you questioning everything you've been taught. Asterisk number 7. Hitler's Jewish girlfriend. Asterisk before he became a politician, Hitler was a struggling artist. He wanted to become famous for his paintings, but no one would buy them. In fact, most people thought they were pretty awful. So in order to make money, Hitler sold postcards and stamps that featured images of some of the world's most beautiful women. One day he saw a woman named Stephanie, who worked at a popular cafe in Vienna, and he decided that she would be the model for his next set of postcards. Stephanie agreed to pose for Hitler, and the two of them quickly became friends. Hitler would tell her about his dreams of becoming famous, and she would encourage him to keep trying. But their friendship soon turned into something more, and the two of them began dating. They kept their relationship a secret because Hitler didn't want his political career to be ruined by the scandal. But eventually the truth came out, and Hitler was forced to end things with Stephanie. She was devastated, but she knew that it was for the best. Although Stephanie was Jewish, she had converted to Christianity before she met Hitler. This didn't stop him from being racist towards her though, and when their relationship ended, he went back to his old ways of painting pictures of women and selling them as postcards. No. 6. Hitler's nephew. Hitler had one nephew named William Patrick Hitler. His father, William, was the youngest brother of Adolf Hitler. He was just 18 years old when World War II broke out, so he wasn't able to fight for Germany. Instead, he joined the British Royal Navy and served as a cook on a warship. After the war ended, William returned home and married a British woman named Jean. They had 2 sons together, both of whom were named after Hitler's parents, Alois and Clara. William tried his best to raise his sons away from the shadow of their infamous uncle, but it was impossible. When William Patrick Hitler was just 9 years old, he was sent to an all-boys school run by German monks. It was there that he learned about the horrors of the Holocaust and his uncle's involvement in it. Shocked and disgusted, he immediately wrote a letter to King George VI asking him to sever all ties between him and his family. But this didn't happen, and as a result, William Patrick Hitler changed his name to just William Hitler and renounced his citizenship. He then enlisted in the US Army and fought against Germany during the Korean War. After leaving the army, William worked as a journalist and wrote several books about his experiences growing up with Hitler as his uncle. He also gave many interviews over the years, always telling the same story. According to him, his father was very ashamed of having such a famous relative and did everything he could to hide it from his sons. William Patrick Hitler died in 2013 at the age of 77. No. 5. The mysterious disappearance of Hitler's parents. Hitler's mother died when he was just 14 years old. His father, Alois, was a violent man who had been married 3 times. By the time he had Hitler, he was in his 50s when Alois passed away. Hitler was left alone in the world without any close family members. He was raised by his grandparents, but he was never close to them either. As a young man, Hitler became obsessed with the idea of creating a perfect race of humans through eugenics. He believed that the German people were at risk of being diluted by other races, and that something had to be done to preserve their bloodline. This is where his interest in genetics began. At the age of 25, Hitler attended a lecture by an Austrian scientist named Julius von Sachs. Sachs was one of the first people to study genetics, and he talked about how traits are passed down from parents to children. Hitler was fascinated by what he heard, and he began reading everything he could get his hands on about the subject. He became convinced that if he could just find a way to control who reproduces, he could create a master race of Germans. This is when Hitler started his own political party called the National Socialist German Workers' Party. His goal was to gain power so that he could pass laws that would allow him to carry out his plan for genetic perfection. It wasn't long before his party started gaining support, and Hitler found himself in a position where he could start putting his ideas into action. The first thing he did was pass laws that made it illegal for Jews and other minorities to marry Germans. He also created a program to encourage German women to have more babies. But these measures weren't enough for Hitler. He wanted to take things a step further and create a whole new race of Germans. To do this, he needed to find a way to get rid of the genetic defects he believed were plaguing the population. So Hitler started a program called the Action T4, which secretly allowed doctors to perform experiments on people with disabilities. These experiments included things like sterilizing people without their consent, as well as performing horrific surgeries. Of course, none of this was done with the knowledge or consent of the patients or their families. In fact, many of the people who were experimented on were told that they were receiving treatment for another condition entirely. It's unclear exactly how many people were killed or injured as a result of Action T4, but it's believed that the number is somewhere in the tens of thousands. Once Hitler was satisfied that he had created a master race of Germans, he turned his attention to the rest of Europe. He invaded Poland in 1939 and quickly spread his message of racial purity throughout the continent. He also continued to persecute Jews and other minorities, eventually sending millions of them to concentration camps where they were either worked to death or simply murdered. It's hard to say exactly why Hitler became so obsessed with genetics and racial purity. Some believe that it was because he felt like an outsider for most of his life. This could have caused him to develop a need for belonging to a group that was better than everyone else. Whatever the reason, it's clear that Hitler's obsession with genetics and racial purity led to the deaths of millions of innocent people. Number 4. Hitler's secret love child. After the war, rumors began circulating that Hitler had a secret love child with a woman named Geli Raubal. Geli was the niece of Hitler's longtime friend and confidant, Eva Braun. She lived with Hitler in the Chancellery, and it's believed that the two of them had a sexual relationship. However, this is only speculation as there is no concrete evidence to support the claim. Despite this, there have been many books and documentaries made about the alleged affair. Geli's story is particularly interesting because she was said to have been one of the few people who could actually stand up to Hitler. She was known for her fiery temper and was not afraid to speak her mind to him. This may have been part of what made their relationship so compelling. Ultimately, we may never know for sure if Hitler and Geli had a love child together, but the speculation surrounding their relationship continues to fascinate people to this day. No. 3. Hitler's final days in the bunker. As the war began to turn against Germany, Hitler became increasingly paranoid and isolated. He spent more and more time in his bunker in Berlin, only emerging to give speeches or meet with important guests. The bunker was heavily guarded and soundproofed, and Hitler had it filled with all of the comforts he could possibly want. There was a movie theater, a sauna, a barber shop, and even a swimming pool. But despite all of the luxuries around him, Hitler was miserable. He was constantly worried about the safety of his bunker, and he became more and more detached from reality. As the war dragged on, eventually, he stopped eating and drinking and spent most of his time sleeping. On April 30th, 1945, with the Soviet army just days away from capturing the bunker, Hitler decided to take his own life rather than be captured. He shot himself in the head along with his wife, Eva Braun. Their bodies were then burned in a nearby garden. Hitler's remains have never been recovered, but there is no doubt that he is dead. Number 2. Hitler's death mask. One of the most famous pieces of memorabilia from World War II is Hitler's death mask. The mask was reportedly made by an SS officer named Joseph Mengele, who was known for his creepy experiments on prisoners at Auschwitz. Mengele allegedly took measurements of Hitler's face after he died, and then used that information to create the mask. The mask itself is made out of plaster and is incredibly detailed. It captures every nuance of Hitler's face, from his bushy eyebrows to his thin lips. For many years, it was believed that the mask had been lost forever. However, it resurfaced in the 1980s and is now on display at a museum in California. People who have seen the mask describe it as being eerily realistic. Some have even claimed that they can hear Hitler's voice when they look at it. Of course, these are just stories, and there is no evidence to support them, but it's easy to see Why so many people are fascinated by Hitler's death mask. It's a tangible reminder of one of the most evil men who ever lived. Asterisk. Number 1. Hitler's brain. Asterisk. In 2015, a group of researchers from the University of Florida announced that they had acquired Hitler's brain. They had purchased it from a man who claimed to have stolen it from the facility where it was being stored. The brain itself is in terrible condition. It is shriveled and full of holes, but the researchers believe that they can still learn a lot from it. By studying Hitler's brain, they hope to learn more about what makes someone like Hitler tick. They also hope to put to rest some of the rumors that have been circulating about Hitler's brain for years. For example, some people have claimed that Hitler's brain was incredibly small, while others have claimed that it was incredibly large. The truth is that Hitler's brain was actually of average size, but because it has been so damaged over the years, it is difficult to tell. Still, the researchers are hopeful that they will be able to make some groundbreaking discoveries about Hitler's brain. And who knows, maybe one day we will finally understand what made this man tick. Asterisk. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for more videos like these. And one more thing, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video.